Hi, Tom Cole for BCSN and Buckeye Cable System, and welcome into another edition of Sports Flash. I've got a very interesting gentleman to talk to today, Kirk Heidelberg. Kirk, welcome. You've had an extraordinary career in the game of football. Let's fill in some gaps for people. You played at Heidelberg University. Kind of an irony, last name Heidelberg, you played at Heidelberg. So that was meant to be under Coach Murphy, who's a great man. I know very well. I played against Coach Murphy at Ohio Wesleyan when he was at Heidelberg, and a remarkable UT coach, as everybody knows. You were a defensive end there. And then you coached at the University of Toledo with, just a couple of guys that people might be familiar with, Coach Saban and Coach Pinkle, two of the greatest coaches to ever come through that university. You won a MAC championship in 1990 under Coach Saban. Give me, let's do the playing for Coach Murphy, because he's a legend. Give me a little Coach Murphy speak. What was he like as a coach?
Well, I have to tell you, he recruited me there.
Okay.
And he wasn't our coach, because at that time he was at Toledo. So actually I ran into Coach Murphy. I wanted to walk on at Toledo. And he said, hey, I've got all the contacts to go to Heidelberg. You got the perfect name for it. That's why I ended up going
I love it. That sounds like Coach.
And I still, once in a while I run into him, and he always, remembers.
He remembers. That's Coach. He's a great guy. All right, let's get to Coach Saban. Give me some coach speak on Coach Saban. What was it like to coach with him?
Coach Saban's very demanding, but very fair.
Okay.
I would say, there's a lot of 4th and 1 situations with Coach Saban.
Yeah.
His style and his approach, but I learned so much. I probably emulated a lot of my coaching discipline and organization from Coach Saban and Coach Pinkle. So I felt like I worked for two of the best coaches in the country.
Kurt, was Coach Saban, he would just strike me as the kind of guy that every second on the practice field was detailed, lettered, that you were doing it, and boom, 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 and everybody's moving. There wasn't a lot of lollygagging around.
No way. I mean, he ran it like a Swiss watch.
I mean, that was my impression.
He was very organized, very detailed. So was Coach Pinkle. But Coach Saban just had that presence that, you don't want to let him down.
Right.
And you also feared him at the same time.
Right. That's what I was getting to that, too. Is Coach Saban the kind of guy that you could say something in a meeting and say, hey, Coach, that's not, I think we can do it, or was it something you just said?
No, absolutely. Coach Saban wanted your opinion, but he also held you
accountable for it.
Yeah, very accountable, and he had a standard, and you had to meet that standard, and that's what I loved. I loved working for him. I enjoyed my time with him, and unfortunately, he only lasted a year.
Yeah, and you had won a MAC championship in 1990. Just had a reunion last week at UT. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
How cool. Coach Pinkle. Kurt, to me, he's one of the great developers of quarterbacks in the history of college football. If you go back and look at, and I know, Coach James in Washington, he learned a lot from Coach James. Coach James Bill Walsh gets a lot of credit, which he deserves, for moving the game of football forward offensively. But Coach James, if you study him, was right there with Bill Walsh. I mean, he was doing things that nobody else was doing. So Coach Pinkle learned from the best. What was Coach Pinkle? How did that quarterback development work for him? Did he personally tutor these guys? Did he let an assistant do it, or was it more his
Well,
baby?
Number one, it always started with recruiting.
Okay.
Coach Pinkle was going to go out and recruit the best, and you're going to develop. He was going to develop them. I agree with Don James. I think Don James. I still keep all the organizational.
He was so far ahead of the curve.
Yeah, way. And Coach Pinkle still uses everything from Coach James, and Coach Pinkle used to tell us it was like getting his doctorate in organization.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Gary Pinkle's been so successful. But back to the quarterback, he had a big hand on what type of quarterback he wanted and how he was going to utilize it.
He knew the prototype to be successful.
Exactly.
And he knew the characteristics that he had to have.
Right.
Yeah, he's always had great quarterbacks. And that doesn't just happen,
Yeah,
I mean, the NFL spends billions of dollars on quarterbacks and first-round draft picks. Aggregately.
And you look at what he did at Washington, Mark Brunell. He had a ton of quarterbacks that went to the NFL.
Right. Well, now let's update the people. You've been coaching in Europe for how long a period of time?
15 years.
Wow, congratulations. And that's a little different in that, everyone knows soccer's the sport, but football's done pretty well there. Tell us what it's like coaching in Europe. Is it a level of let's say, a Division III football here in the States, Division II? I mean, give us a feel for European football.
I would say, there's a lot of good European football players, and a lot of them are in the NFL. I sent one, David Odenthal from Germany here, played center here at Toledo. There's been a lot of football players. Werner Hippler that played with Cologne, he played in the NFL. I would say with all the Americans involved, it's probably Division II.
Division II.
We're allowed to have 6 Americans.
I was going to ask you the rule, because the Canadian, you got to have X amount of Canadians. How many Europeans? Do you have
we're allowed to have 2 Americans on the field at a time.
Okay.
And the maximum Americans you can have is 6.
Okay.
On the roster, so those guys are getting paid, and a lot of the German guys are just getting gas money. Some are getting paid.
Right.
But it's kind of a money league now, the German football league. So there's some really good teams that have great sponsors, and it's an opportunity for them to perform. But I was in Karlstad, Sweden, and that team was really amazing to me. They've won 6 championships there, and they do it with only 2 Americans.
Yeah.
And
is the American normally a quarterback?
No, actually, in Sweden they had a Swedish quarterback. The tailback's Brett Kepp, that I happened to coach in high school, and he played a little bit here at the University of Toledo. So it's a great opportunity to keep playing football.
Yeah, and you get to learn another culture, see another part of the world that you wouldn't normally see. Yeah. Do the people in Europe embrace the Americans there? How are you received?
Sure. I actually met my wife in Germany.
Did you?
I worked so long and hard at Toledo, all those hours, I was still single. So I always said, hey, I'd never meet anyone. I went to Germany and met my wife, and had my son Jason. And it's international, the culture, and it's just a great opportunity to see the world.
Do you keep tabs on Toledo, you keep tabs on the MAC, I know, and certainly the Division III schools like Heidelberg and Mount Union and those people. We were chatting about Mount Union off air. I mean, they could line up against the bottom of the MAC, and I'm not saying they win, but I'm saying it's a pretty good ball game.
Right.
Do you kind of do a little recruiting? When you notice a kid, how does that work?
Well, number one, I like to do is the coaches that I know. Mm-hmm. I've taken kids from Coach Pinkle. Obviously, I've had kids here from Toledo, Bowling Green. Vince Pelko, that's local here, played for me. Yeah. Terry Wilson. I had Tommy Eitner at Toledo, Jamal Bell, Tony Moore. So we've had a great history of getting MAC kids, but we've gone to the Division III kids too, because there's a lot of those kids aren't as entitled, so because they're not on full scholarship, and hey, they're not going to be catered to, and so a lot of them adapt. But it's just a great opportunity to keep playing football and see the world. They're over there for 6 months, and it's just a great chance. And not only Germany, but Sweden, Poland, Italy. Dan Simmerl also coached in Italy, so it's just a great opportunity. Also,
do you
for
learn
coaches.
The language? Do you assimilate in? Do you, wherever you're at? How much of the language is that you picked up in the places you've been?
Unfortunately, I should speak better German than I should, because
you get enough German to get by.
Yes.
Can you do
it? I can speak conversationally.
Okay.
But everything's in English as far as the coaching, the details, and all the rudiments of the game. So on that end, but my wife and my son, speak German together, so I catch that all the time.
Oh, that's great. And we also want to tell people might not know, you helped coach Team USA 2010 and 2012, which was a great experience.
U19, yeah. I got to coach with Chris Merritt, Gabe Infante, and Steve Speck, the head coach at St. Xavier. What outstanding coaches, high school coaches. So it was a great experience. It was a U19. I was the offensive coordinator, and I just met so many great football players. And Andrew Donald from Anthony Wayne.
Right.
And
he's one of our BCSN stars.
Yeah. So it was just an awesome experience, and really makes me, my bucket list is to come back and coach high school football. That's what I really want to do. I want to finish up making an impact with young kids, and do it for the right reason.
we really hope that you do that, because obviously you know the game of football. You've been a great player. You've been a great coach here and over in Europe. So it'd be wonderful to bring that experience to a high school, and you could teach a little German and teach a little Swedish,
bring my wife,
teach a little Italian, and be the head football coach.
Exactly.
So.
The one cool thing that I'm doing right now is in the off season I work for All World Machinery. A friend of mine, Dave Kep, owns a company here. It's a hydraulic component system. So I'll be back in the Toledo area in the off season. So that's some exciting things for me. And my son wants to go to high school here next year.
Great. Well, it's a great place, great schools, great teachers, great coaches. We see it every day on BCSN. We cover 35 schools, and it's nothing but good people. So your son will be in good hands. Kurt,
hey,
congratulations.
I'm very honored and humbled to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's totally our honor. You're a heck of a football man. I think there's a book and a movie in your football life experiences. You ought to be writing a book or writing some notes down, because I think there's a book or a movie there, Kurt.
Well, we'll see.
Okay. All right, Kurt. Thank you so much. Tom Cole for BCSN and another edition of Sports Flash.